Hello, everybody, and welcome to another session here at the Leader Tree. I'm Chris Miller, your host, and I am here today for one of our spotlight interviews on another business leader. Is a good friend of mine, and I hope that you all enjoy chatting a little bit with us here today. This is Mr. Tom Sellers. Tom, how are you?
I am doing well, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. And
Great.
thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Oh, it is my pleasure and my honor, sir. Always happy to talk with you.
I know that you and I are in very similar businesses. We've done some work together in the past, and
Yep,
whereas I'm looking to find money for my business clients, you help them build business credit. Is that correct?
it is. It is. What we do is we help a business build credit for just the corporation and keep it away from their personal credit, so they can keep their personal credit at home where it belongs and their business credit in their office where it belongs.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Because as a factoring business broker, one of the biggest problems that I run into with some
Hmm.
of my clients that are, especially if they haven't been in business too long, is that they're using up all their personal credit for things,
Yep.
and they're using up all their personal assets as collateral to get all these things that they want, and they don't realize there's a better way and a
Yep.
safer way.
I cringe every time, and I've heard it a ton over the years. Somebody does something, and then they come to me thinking, "Oh, might have made a mistake." But when they tell me, "Yeah, I just took a second mortgage on my house," I'm like, "Oh my God, why did you do that?" Uh, there's a lot of things I hear that I cringe from, but the upside is when it's done properly, we can fix it.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, I asked you for 5 questions. I'm going to put you on the spot now.
All right, wouldn't be the first time.
These are questions that I like to ask most of the business leaders because they're questions that speak to my heart,
Sure.
right? So, how long have you been in business for yourself, Tom?
I started out the end of 2015, so the end of this year we will have made it 5 years,
Okay. Now
which
you
is a
have
big
another
benchmark.
side business too, don't you? You have a business where you're helping people get leads. Is that
I
correct?
do. I do. I started that about 18 months ago. So the two actually work very well together when I'm dealing with business people.
Fantastic. And how has your business experience and the concept for working for yourself
Hmm.
helped you grow as a leader?
Well, there's a few things that I look at, and I don't know. I'm certainly no guru, and nothing I'm going to say is new news. But I'm going to say it anyway because that's what I do. Um, you know, the thing I would stress upon people that are in business is don't be afraid to be wrong. Lose the
Yes.
ego.
Very good
Uh,
point.
Too many times what happens, and I was guilty of it myself when I first got started, is like, hey, I know how this works better than anybody. Um, and, trying to impose your will is not always the right answer. And I kind of tied that together with just on that fact alone. Since I've been in business, I have learned a ton from people who know very little about what I do. What they do know, though, and the things that I've learned from them are different ways to go about finding people to talk to. Um, Social media is a huge thing that, quite frankly, I'm an old guy. Is like social what? So I've learned a lot of things from people, and you have to keep an open enough mind to listen to the people that you work with. Now, does that mean you're going to take every single suggestion? Probably not. But you should have enough of a non-ego to listen, think, and say, "Hey, wait a minute, this might be something worth trying."
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of goes into my second question, which are what are the top three qualities or traits
Sure.
that you look for that
Hmm.
you think are important for people to be successful as business leaders?
Okay. Well, like I said, the first one is don't be afraid to be wrong. That might be the biggest one. Don't be afraid that if you try something and it doesn't work, scrap it, find something else, which ties into the next thing. You have to hold yourself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
We can tell ourselves every lie we want to tell us. We can give every excuse we want to tell us. We could take the today's conditions. Well, everything's closed up and people are on lockdown, and I may as well just wait till it all opens up again. Well, that's certainly justifiable. Probably nobody'd argue with you, but it's dead wrong. People are still doing things, and as long as people are still doing things, we need to help them do it. And then my last and perhaps my most favorite is whatever business you're in, you need to be a student of that business.
Mhm.
There is no business owner that I'm aware of that can look me in the eye or you in the eye and say, I know everything there is to know about my business, period. If you ever reach that point, it won't be long, in my opinion, that a young person will be an up-and-comer and say, hey, wait, I see how to do that, but I know a better, faster way. And that new person is going to leave you in the dust if you don't look at things like market conditions and new trends and better ways to do things. So again, to me, the most important thing is be a student of your business. Be on the lookout and constantly learn as a student.
Absolutely, my friend. It reminds me of a moment in my past that I've never forgotten. And back when I was in the Army, I was a private just starting off, and we were on a field exercise.
Sure.
Now, we were going out there, we're setting up, and we got two groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
One group defending, another group attacking, right? So now in the middle of this secondary group is attacking. Everybody's scrambling over here. They're trying to figure out where the first sergeant went, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking all over the place. Everybody's looking all over the place. I happen to find the first sergeant sitting up in a tree. I'd only been in the Army for a week, maybe a week and a half at the time.
Okay.
And here's the first sergeant sitting up in a tree. And I'm like, what are you doing up there, first? And he said, shut up, Miller, and get up here. And I climbed up that tree along with him, and he sat there, and he explained to me what I was looking at.
Okay.
He said, these guys are about to do that. And when they do, these guys are going to do this. And sure enough, he was right every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, I said, first sergeant, how do you know all this? And he said, let me tell you something. Doesn't matter what you do in life. Never stop being trainable and never stop learning.
Hear, hear.
The moment you do, the world will pass you by. And I swear to God, he's 100% right on that. So I agree with you 100%.
Absolutely. That is, in a prior life, I spent 30 years doing something else, and I was very good at it. And there was a time that I thought I was so good that I didn't need any more help, any more training. I didn't need, because I could do it so well. And after a couple of months of not doing it so well and being showed up by people who had been in the business I was in for a couple of weeks, it occurred to me that if you stop learning, you stop getting better. You can't even maintain good after a period of time. That's
true. Yeah. So give me an example of how those qualities that you mentioned have served you well in business.
One of the things that when I talk about being accountable, I take a very hard line in my business about everything stops with me. It's my name on the company. It's my name when I sign a check. So if there is a problem, and a lot of times, and you know this, I'm sure you've been through this, perhaps somebody on the staff makes a mistake. So do I go to that customer and say, yeah, my staff made a mistake and roll him under the bus? Of course not. That one way or another reflects on me. Perhaps I didn't train the person well enough. Perhaps I didn't give him the right or her the right information when she questioned me about it. In any event, it does not matter. The good side or the bad side, everything ends with me. I had a
very Harry Truman of you.
Right. The only bad thing about that is Harry Truman died relatively broke. But anyway, that's the right idea. You have to do the right thing. Another thing that, when I talk about learning, constantly learning, it was 2 years ago, well, almost 2 years ago, that I recognized a glaring hole in my business. I've been in sales for the better part of 40 years. And I'm like, yeah, this selling thing is easy. There's nothing to selling. And that was the premise I opened my company on. And I used the premise that when they come in the door, there are not a lot of people better than me at getting them to a deal. The part I didn't know, and the part that I had to become studious about, is I never had to be responsible for getting people through the door. That was a whole new part of the world to me.
Yeah.
So I had to learn about marketing. I had to learn about lead generation, and I looked and I found it, and we'll talk about that another time, I'm sure. But I have since studied, learned. I feel like I'm in college again, only this time I probably am going to do a little better at it. But if you see a hole, if you see a problem, you have to become a student. You have to find a solution to that problem, again, because it's your name. It's your business. If you don't do those things, you have two choices. You either do something about it and fix it and scrape your knees a few times learning how to do it the right way, or you say, you know what, this is all going to fix itself, and I can, within a relatively short period of time, you could be out looking for a job again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you've spoken about these kind of things before on your own podcast. That's correct.
Yeah, I have.
I remember listening to some of that. Give the listeners here the name of your podcast and how they can find you while we're at it.
Sure. The name of the podcast that you're speaking of is called Our 2 Cents, and you can find that on Facebook. That we do live every Thursday. We do that from 7 to 8 o'clock Central Time. We've had very good guests on recently, and I've approached you to do a spot with us as well. And you've graciously accepted. We're just trying to get my people with your people to get a date on the schedule. And you can also find that on YouTube at tsellers at Gmail. You'll find that there.
Awesome. If you could give a young leader some advice, what they could do to kickstart their future, kickstart their road to success.
Right.
What's the number one thing you think that you would tell them?
Be fearless. First and foremost, be fearless. If you find something that you can bring to market that is going to help people in whatever chosen field that is that you work in, and you are 100% sure that it is helpful, be fearless. Go out there, do it. Again, skin your knees, cuss a little bit if you got to, but keep going. Don't be afraid to screw it up. Don't be afraid to try things that may or may not work, because sooner or later, if you keep after it, you're going to find the things that do. And you're going to do it primarily because in your heart, you know that you have something that will help.
Yeah. And that similar advice has also come from some of our friends over at TW3, our mutual friends over there.
Absolutely.
Because I've had people that we know over there that say to me, I want to get started doing these things, but I have to get everything right first. I have to get every little detail nailed down before I do anything. And my advice to them is always, just start.
Right.
Fix things later. Once you figure out what's going wrong, then you can fix it. But
exactly.
If you just wait, you can plan yourself right out of a job, right?
You really can. I'll tell you, and those of us who speak TW3 will understand what I'm talking about. We have a step 4. And step 4, quite frankly, took me an entire afternoon to get through. And it took me about 5 hours to put my first campaign together. And I'm an old car guy, so I have a colorful selection of language at my disposal. And when I was going through that, there were words that came out of me I've never heard before. But the bottom line is, I was determined to accomplish it. I was determined to master it and put it into use. And as I was doing that, and I finally got it done, and now I can do that same exercise at about 20 minutes on most days. But the thing that kept coming into my head, and still does, is something Dan Kennedy said not long ago. It does not necessarily have to be perfect. It has to be done. Get it out the door.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question. What is one thing, or maybe a couple of things, whatever on your mind, that you think young business leaders or people just starting out overlook that they really should spend more time on?
I'm going to refer back to where I started when I thought sales was all that mattered. So to the answer, I would say this: learn how to market, learn how to generate more leads than you can possibly talk to. And here's why I say that. Again, you may have a good product, you may have a great service, and you may sell the 10% of people that you talk to that are ready and able to go in that first conversation. But the reality is that is 10% of the people that you talk to, period. The rest need to hear more. They need to see more. They need to talk more. So if you just use silly numbers, just plain old dumbass numbers, pardon my language, and you have had the ability to talk to 10 people in a week, and you sold one of them, how many times, if you're doing it the traditional way, how long does it take to get to those 10 people to get in front of? And if you're doing like most do with cold calling, whether that be in person or on the phone, you could literally take 4 or 5 days to get to that one person who agrees to listen to you. And don't forget that 10% rule. That is not something that's going to happen every week. So it's conceivable you make one sale for a month. Now where are you?
Yeah.
So, learn how to do lead generation the right way. Learn how to talk to people that can't wait to talk to you again.
Yeah, you're right, my friend, because, it's funny because in corporate America, the majority of businesses that you look at, or the majority of businesses that you hear about, they lump sales and marketing together like they're the same thing.
Like they're the same thing.
Different animals.
Right.
Marketing is about finding somebody and drumming up interest in their mind so that they're willing to make a phone call.
Right.
And sales are, I've already got them. Now I just got to hook that fish. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a completely different animal, and they don't work even remotely the same.
No,
so
no,
to
you're
lump
right.
them together has always been the kind of thing that just makes me go, what? Why are you doing that?
Right. No, I agree with you. I define sales and marketing similar to you. I define marketing as what it takes to get that person through my door. I define sales as the process that begins once they've gotten through the door.
Once they're there. Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly right.
I'm an old door-to-door man from way back. So
you and me both.
I did both. I did the marketing and the sales directly by knocking on that door and then talking to them, getting in the house. I sold Kirby vacuums for 7.5 years.
Sure.
That was my first gig, So I wasn't even out of high school yet, and here I am selling vacuums door to door. I loved it, man. I still go door to door now as an independent broker. And I tell my brokers, though, look, the hardest thing you can do is cold call.
Yep.
Walking and knocking different doors. You're going to knock a lot of doors before you get into a house, and then you got a 1 out of 6 shot of selling it from there usually.
Right.
Until you get a little, good at it, and then you can increase those odds a little bit.
Right.
But calling on the phone is even harder.
Yes, it is.
It's much easier to have business coming to you than it is for you to go get business.
Right.
So I agree with you. I think you're right. Well, thank you very much, Tom. We appreciate your taking the time to be with us over here today at the Leader Tree and to give us your expert advice on these things. And is there any parting words that you'd like to leave with our audience here?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. And like I say, I'll have my people get with your people to get you scheduled for our 2 cents.
I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So am I. If I was going to leave with one final thought, it would be this. And we all find ourselves in this spot, and it's a spot we really have to train ourselves on. And that is, if you are new to business, or maybe you've been in business for a while and you've kind of reached a plateau, do not listen at any cost to either the external voices, and most importantly, the internal voices that are trying to tell you about things that won't work, that are trying to sell you on gloom and doom. Those will derail you if you allow them. So when you make the decision to move, and whatever that means, whether it's a side gig or you're going to open up your own company or whatever that is, begin by turning your ears off.
That's great advice. Absolutely great advice.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, Tom Sellers, check him out. He's an awesome, awesome guy and an awesome business leader. If you have a business and you're using your personal credit, you need to give this guy a call. Tom, what's your phone number that they can reach you at for that?
Sure. They can reach me at 708-541-0215. And the company is 24/7 Credit Funding. And we have a website named the same thing.
And I've worked with Tom. He's a go-getter. He will do everything he can to help you out. So if you're using your personal credit, folks, for your business, don't do it. Don't do it. Call Tom up and get that straightened out. Okay?
Absolutely.
For the Leader Tree, where leadership grows, I'm Chris Miller saying, always keep smiling.